Hello and welcome to a special edition of APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. We begin in BC, where a memorial pole was raised on the Highway of Tears in honor of murdered and missing Indigenous women. The pole stands in northeastern BC as a place of healing for families and a reminder of a national issue. Lee Wilson has more.
Mishka and Simpson carver Mike D'Angeli welcomes a crowd to witness the ceremony of a pole raised in honor of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. They marched along Highway 16, also known as the Highway of Tears. The pole had the blessing of the Kitsim chiefs, who were a key group in raising the pole in their traditional territory. Longtime advocate Gladys Raddick's niece, Tamara Lynn Chipman, went missing along the highway 15 years ago. She was never found.
I feel that our families needed something, and we accomplished getting something that they needed, a commemoration and healing pole to honor their loved ones.
Educate the public that we matter.
MMIWG advocate Wanda Good shares the pole's meaning to the crowd. Due to COVID-19, there was a limit on who could attend the ceremony. In 2018, Melissa Moses came back to Canada for the National Inquiry into MMIWG. She teaches self-defense in Indigenous communities as a preventative measure. As a teenager, her cousin, Cherish Oppenheim, was found murdered near Merritt.
My family had closure, which I understand is a very huge part in the healing process. And when I meet other families, such as one of my other cousins, Monica Jack, didn't find her murderer until 17 years later.
Raddick believes this commemoration memorial pole brings awareness to MMIWG in Canada. She calls for more action needed to be taken to stop violence against women and girls. And it starts with a national inquiry where she provided supports to families.
Right now, Canada needs to know that we need to hold the government accountable in bringing those 231 recommendations through the national inquiry. Bring them to life. Time has come to stop violence against women.
According to the carver D'Angeli, he and his son started working on the pole after they secured funding from Women and Gender Equality Canada. The Kitsim chiefs were able to get help from the BC Ministry of Transportation. D'Angeli shares the importance of the low man on the pole, which is a departure from totem tradition.
The most important figure, as it holds all of the weight. It holds the responsibility of holding the story up.
Carvings of a matriarch, children's faces, women in a red dress also highlight the pole. Now it stands on Highway 16 near the town of Terrace for those affected by violence.
I just wanted to share with the families that this pole is for you, and this is just a little insignia that you are not alone.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitsim.
In Winnipeg, one Cree family is enjoying a gift 3 years in the making. In June 2017, Carrie Kirkness lost 3 of her limbs due to a rare illness. Since then, her family has been working to make life as normal as possible for the young mother. Recently, her community has stepped in to help and is urging others to do the same. Brittany Hobson brings us this story.
See, smooth sailing.
It's the simple things that bring Carrie Kirkness joy. Things the general population may take for granted, like being able to sit in your own backyard. The young Cree woman uses a wheelchair. Up until this week, moving around outside her home was a challenge. But thanks to some renovations, that has changed.
At the end of the ramp, there was always like that dip, I guess. Yeah, so I'd have to go down really slow. And then when I would come back on the ramp, I would need my
we'd hold her.
Yeah.
To ensure that she didn't flip over.
Yeah. So, but it's like smooth sailing. I don't have to like stop and then like slowly go. I could just go now.
Kirkness lost her legs and an arm in 2017 after contracting a rare illness. She ended up in hospital with what she thought was the flu. Doctors later told the family she was dealing with flesh-eating disease caused by an invasive bacteria known as Group A Streptococcus. Loretta Kirkness recalls the moment hospital staff told her they would need to remove her daughter's limbs.
I hoped it was an infection, but I knew it was going to be amputation, because already by that time that you could see the infection spread. It looked like a huge bruise, and it happened so fast, and I knew what was going to happen, but at the same time I prayed that it wouldn't. And he said, I'll give you 15 minutes to decide, and I said, I don't need 15 minutes. Save her.
Kirkness remained in hospital for 5 months before moving in with her parents, her 2 sons, and her siblings. The home had to be renovated to accommodate Kirkness. Most recently, Loretta was trying to make outside more accessible, but she soon realized she was in over her head. The project sat uncompleted until a recent accident prompted Loretta to seek help.
There was just gravel out there, and her tire was spinning. It was spinning and spinning, and then finally when it caught on, her wheelchair took off and she crashed into the barbecue. The corner of it smashed into her chest.
The family is from Opaskwayak Cree Nation. Shortly after the incident, Loretta reached out to OCN Onekanu Christian Sinclair.
Seeing it firsthand, seeing her where she wasn't even able to get into the backyard with her electric wheelchair, inside it just hit home to be able to say, we can do better than this. We can support Carrie and the family, because it's not only herself as an individual, but her parents, her siblings, and her 2 sons that she lives with.
The community has a partnership with the Winnipeg construction group, so Sinclair reached out to them to see if anything could be done. The group decided to complete the renovations free of charge. Loretta says the new addition is everything she envisioned.
I wanted her to make sure she was a part of, instead of just being limited. And now she can sit out there with us and, just watch the cars go by. Yeah. Watch people walk by.
For Kirkness, it's simply about one thing: independence.
I felt free. Yeah, like I don't have to wait on somebody to come and help me now.
The community now wants to help fundraise for a new accessibility van for the family, and will be launching a GoFundMe later this month. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
It's wonderful to see Carrie have independence and be able to freely move around her home. It's time for a short break now, but coming up, a Blackfoot artist studying Navajo metal working.
We have a lot of our traditions and things that we need to preserve and that we need to pass on also, that can be told in the form of metalwork, silversmith.
Welcome back to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. A Piikani silversmith is hoping to bring a different form of the art to Blackfoot territory. She's currently in New Mexico exploring Navajo metalworking traditions from a Blackfoot perspective. Tamara Pimentel has this story.
It's like a treasure when you find them.
When Albertine Crowshoe was artist in residence at Calgary's Glenbow Museum, she had the chance to go through Blackfoot artifacts. What she found was mostly intricate beadwork and quill work.
We have a lot of amazing craftspeople who are beaders and who work with their hands. Well, I only found one piece of metalwork, and it was made out of tin.
Crowshoe from Piikani Nation may be the only Blackfoot silversmith in Canada. She's been a full-time jeweler since 2011.
We have a lot of our traditions and things that we need to preserve and that we need to pass on also, that can be told in the form of metalwork, silversmith.
Crowshoe spoke with APTN from Gallup, New Mexico, a place famous for its Navajo metalwork, and it's where she's expanding her knowledge of the craft with the well-known Navajo silversmith, Lyndon Sosi.
Silversmithing among Navajos is prevalent. You have the basic bench jeweler or kitchen table jeweler where they set up shop on their kitchen table or their dining room table, and they make jewelry.
Croshoe found a passion for metalwork while taking classes in Calgary. A grant from the Canada Council for the Arts brought her here.
I wanted to be able to explore Navajo silverwork from a Blackfoot perspective, from our traditions, from what we believe in, and adapt that into a metal form.
Croshoe says she now has a responsibility to take a Navajo art form and make it prevalent in Blackfoot territory.
To keeping our ways of knowing and our ways of what we believe in, keeping those alive and teaching people and teaching those who are coming after us,
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
Now to another inspiring story. An Alberta-based comic book artist is working with the world's biggest comic book company, Marvel Comics, to help produce a new comic that features Indigenous superheroes. And the stories are written and drawn by Indigenous talent. Chris Stewart brings us this story.
I believe it's called a Genosian.
Kyle Charles is showing some of his hand-drawn pages for his latest comic book project. Charles is drawing and inking a short story featuring a Native American superhero. It's to be part of a series called Marvel Indigenous Voices. His work is featured in the upcoming issue #1 that has a worldwide release. Charles has worked with big publishers before, but this is his first collaboration with Marvel.
So I'm the illustrator for a 10-page short that involves Danny Moonstar from the New Mutants, and it's about her helping out a new mutant who's discovering their powers, and they actually live on the reservation down in Arizona.
Charles says growing up, there were no Indigenous people working in comics to look up to.
As somebody who grew up without any representation in the industry, I can tell you that even just one small contribution like this, it's just like, it's just the first of many, I'm sure. It's huge. It would have been amazing to have somebody to relate to or look up to.
Now Charles has youth looking up to him.
Friends of mine or extended family come to me and tell me that hey, my son or daughter is starting to draw and really getting excited once they hear that you're doing this, and it's the most important thing. It's the most cherished thing, is to have the youth come up and really have something to believe in.
Vincent Joel is the owner of Wonder Harbor and Wonderland Comics. He worked with Marvel to create a special, unique cover of the comic just for his 2 stores in Edmonton and Grand Prairie. Kyle Charles designed the variant cover featuring Alberta-born Wolverine and Silver Fox. Joel ordered 3,000 copies and wants to distribute them to schools and friendship centers across Canada.
And it's really incredible when their vision and our vision coalesce, they align. We want to be able to give back to the community and allow Indigenous communities across Canada and North America to know that the only thing stopping you from achieving what Kyle has achieved is hard work. That's the only barrier.
Marvel Indigenous Voices comes out November 17th at Wonder Harbor and Wonderland Comics, with the full release everywhere on the 18th. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
We want to hear what you think about Marvel's Indigenous Voices, and maybe you have a copy. Let us know. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to share your comments. With food security becoming an ever-growing problem in Northern Canada, many Northern First Nations are exploring different ways to produce food for their communities. As Sarah Connor tells us, a small farm in the Yukon has found a unique way to tackle winter growing while also providing hope and opportunities for the First Nation that owns it.
This small working farm in Dawson is doing some big things, like feeding a First Nation in the Yukon. The Trondakwitchin Teaching and Working Farm is a community farm focused on sourcing fresh produce, meat, and eggs in a sustainable way. Each year, it produces 70 boxes of food for Dawson residents and 75 boxes twice a year free of charge for Trondakwitchin citizens. Farm manager Derek Hastings says he's seen how the farm is contributing to better nutrition firsthand.
I find people like that. They get this package and they open it up, and it's just they start to make meals based on what they receive that's fresh. So that sort of changes people's dietary habits, changes people's shopping habits.
Ryan Peterson has been getting food from the farm for 3 years. With limited access to fresh, affordable food, Peterson says the farm is a sustainable way to feed his family.
The kids always enjoy the food. They always like it. I'm a good cook too, so that helps. But it's just really good. It's all natural.
Despite its success, Hastings says growing food in Dawson is challenging as the growing season is limited. But by this time next year, all-season growing will be possible thanks to an extended season greenhouse. Much like a traditional greenhouse, the new structure will be much bigger and grow year-round while also offering teaching programs.
Most of it comes from California or the closest to Alberta, so that'll be unique in that way. And, you know, food security is always an issue up here because we're very reliant on the trucks.
And there's more to this farm than just food. Trondequitchin citizens are encouraged to come stay at the farm for free and learn agricultural skills while earning a small income in the process. Hastings says this is especially helpful for those struggling with housing instability and addiction, allowing them to reconnect with tradition, save money, and eventually re-enter the workforce.
How's it going here? Pretty good. How are you doing? People staying in their community, being productive, having hope, being a part of a team effort, and then having good food, which helps people just be more healthy in their mind and bodies.
Eventually, programs will also be in place for Trondequitchin youth to learn life lessons through farming.
I see in the future this really being a way for the youth to establish themselves early in life, between 12 and 18, establish important skill sets and understandings of agriculture and understanding of work ethic. And so that'll lend to a preventative measure to a lot of the problems facing the First Nation going forward.
So while this might just look like an ordinary farm, for many people it's a place where lessons can be learned well past the growing season.
We tend to want to engage with all types of citizens and give people opportunities and allow them to gather hope from the project, you know, like a perspective that sort of lends to like a continuity, season to season, year to year.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Dawson City.
It's exciting to think the farm will be even better next year with the new greenhouse. We have to take one more break, but still to come, a special ceremony for a First Nations veteran.
We're really never recognized nationally.
Welcome back to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. Located in the heart of Tyendinaga Mohawk territory is a special vegetable garden. But they're not just for eating, just yet anyway. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
This 14-acre lot is now home to the Gentege Seed Sanctuary Center. There's over 100 varieties of vegetables growing down there. While the plants themselves may be new, they come from heirloom seeds that can be dated as far back as the 1400s. It's a project that began with the help of Kate Henderson.
Many of them would have been grown on Turtle Island for a long time, for a lot longer than that. We just don't have the documentation to back that up yet.
Maybe shake a little bit more.
But Henderson said saving seeds is an agricultural practice that has been lost. That's why it was important to share them with Tyendinaga to keep them growing in the area. Janice Brandt is excited to be involved in the project. She has a passion for it because she grew up farming. She says they are fortunate to have the seeds handed down. It's their first full crop to grow on the land, and although the vegetables growing here look tasty, they're not for the table.
Most of our mission is concentrated on the production of the seed itself, so that then the seeds can be distributed and more people can start growing. And that actually helps the food system by making more foods available locally to people.
Seeds have always played a role in Mohawk culture and teachings. Keeping that tradition going is important to Nikki Otten. That's why she volunteers here.
A Haudenosaunee person, seeds
comes from our creation story, right? Our first woman that fell from the sky brought with her seeds, and so in that teaching, it tells us that women are protectors of seeds and growers of seeds, and so I really wanted to be involved in that.
According to Brandt, some of the harvested seeds have already been distributed to community members. The hope is to ensure the Mohawk tradition of passing seeds down continues for future generations. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory.
This year's Remembrance Day marked the 75th anniversary to the end of World War II. Jamie Peshagumskum brings us this story of a First Nations veteran and Indigenous rights warrior.
But anyway, I did what I was supposed to do.
98-year-old Philip Favel from the Sweetgrass First Nation in Saskatchewan is known for advocating for the rights of Indigenous veterans. This week, the World War II veteran was honored with the unveiling of his portrait. His granddaughter, Nadine, is proud of her grandfather's legacy.
Since he came back from the war, he's always had this fight in him, and that's what he's done all his life. You know, he's tried to, you know, speak up for the veterans, because they weren't given the same rights as the other veterans were, and still to this day, you know, they still don't.
This was a point also brought up by AFN National Chief Perry Bellegarde.
And there were equals over there, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, equals. But when they came back, we say they became Indians again. And by that, what I mean, they didn't go to Veterans Affairs for their benefits. They went to the Department of Indian Affairs.
Veteran James Eagle was part of the project and chose Favel as the veteran to be honored.
We're really never recognized nationally or worldly about the sacrifices that our Anishinaabe veterans, warriors, done.
During the war, Favel drove ammunition and gas to the front lines. Ottawa artist Elaine Goebel says the portrait represents an important part of Canadian history.
I am overwhelmingly touched and honored to have the opportunity not to work as an insular artist in my studio, but to work with this wonderful village that just grows and grows and is filled with so much love. It's an honor.
Goebel was commissioned for 3 copies of the portrait. One will go to Favel, another will hang in the War Museum as a tribute and as an act of reconciliation. Jamie Peshagumskum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
What a beautiful gesture, and the portrait is even more beautiful. That will do it for this edition of APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. Have a great night.